So can we begin now or should we wait? So in the previous regular class, we started discussion on leadership, and we talked about two broad worldviews that exist for leaders, the real world leaders, and we noted that there are some leaders who think that they are part of the crowd, but there are others who think that they are apart from the crowd. So they maintain a distance with their followers, and they have a heightened sense of self-importance, that as if दुनिया चल रही है तो उन्हीं की वजह से चल रही है. And other type of leaders are more grounded, more humble, more accepting, and in the process they ensure that others develop as leaders. This is what we have discussed. Now today, in the same vein, we will discuss one more issue which I threw open for discussion. I made this observation, which I read somewhere, that our society has become overmanaged and underled. And this was actually said about the American society. But if you look at it deeply, it applies to various kind of societies. Even groups, for example, academic community or academic institutions, universities, public universities especially. So, is it true that our society has become overmanaged and underled? And what does it mean when we say that our society is overmanaged and underled? What do you think is your conception?
So I think a lot more interdependent on each other, and a lot more institutions have occurred in the recent past, and that is why they have to deal with each other. So there are managing skills in all of these people who are dependent on each other in one way or the other.
Okay.
Sir, I think it depends which sector we are talking about. If we are talking about the government sector, it's highly undermanaged. But the corporate sector, some of the leaders, they are saying that too many MBAs ruin the job. So somewhere it is overmanaged, somewhere it is undermanaged. The quality is not there.
The quality is not there.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean when we say that something is overmanaged?
There are too many people to do a single job, but the efficiency is not there.
Right. So we are too concerned with the prerequisite steps that we actually don't put enough efforts in the actual job that is to be done.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It drains the energy of the employees working in that particular organization because they have so much work to do for a simple task. For example, if they need to get a box of paper clips, and they need to fill out 3 requisition forms, which is completely unnecessary for just, say a box of paper clips. And like Pratiksha mentioned, like there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape when it goes to overmanagement.
Hmm. So the implication that we get from these observations is that maybe what Mahek specifically said, that something, if it is overmanaged, we tend to frown upon that. Okay. Not a good thing to happen. So yes, there should be management, but this statement that our society has become overmanaged and under-led, what does it convey about this entire idea of one being a manager versus one being a leader? What does it take to be a manager and what does it take to be a leader? Are these two different roles? Who is a leader?
Sir, I think leader is a smaller concept which comes under manager. Manager act as a leader, but leader doesn't act as a manager.
Leader,
Sir,
yes, yes. Pratiksha?
yes, sir. Leader is a person who acts sir person specific, but a manager is work specific.
Hmm. Manager is work specific and leader is?
Person specific.
So more precisely, if we say, the leadership is like they focus on a mission, and managers are like they focus on completing a particular task or something. They have a longer foresight.
So leader create vision and manager work made people work to get that vision.
So leaders set the agenda and managers fulfill that agenda. Hmm? Yes. Okay. Yes, I think.
Some managers can be a leader, but all leaders, not that. All lead. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm getting confused.
I think it would be better if we discuss it in the context of individuals whom we have met or we have come to know about. For example, what would you say about Sir Syed? Was he a leader or a manager?
Sir, he is a manager.
Leader.
So because
Sir, he was a leader.
so I think he is a manager because he takes everyone along with him.
So I think in the starting time he was a manager, and then when at the last time of his life he will become a leader. Because starting they try to manage people to work, and at the last the people is starting work without any kind of pressure or force provided by Sir Syed. So at the last he become complete leader.
So one point that I feel needs to be mentioned here is we cannot completely separate the two. A leader has to have some sort of management and a manager has to have some sort of leadership skills. But the thing is, what is the main thing that they are focusing on? As per Sir Syed's example, his main agenda was to, bring out a goal so that the entire firm can be, educated. So in that sense, he would be more of a leader.
Mm-hmm. So I think the first question that many of you are hinting at, and I think that's a very important thing, because that sets the tone of our discussion. What is the leader's attitude towards the goals and what is the manager's attitude towards the goals? Leaders, whatever they set out to do, somebody said vision, they set the vision, they set the agenda. Leaders are out to do something. Something which is, in their assessment is not good, and they need to change the situation. So they have a very, very deep and active involvement with the goals that they set for themselves. जिसको एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम ने कहा था कि वो ख्वाब जो आपको सोने नहीं देते. So leaders have some such pious ख्वाब, desires. So all their actions, they arise out of those deeply held desires. Adil made this observation that Sir Syed was deeply concerned about the state of the Qawm and he wanted to do something. All his actions, if you look at his actions, they emerged out of this deeply held desire that I must do something. Not that something must be done, I must do something. Because then only the situation can be changed. As opposed to that, when managers, what is their attitude towards the goals? Managers take goals as given. Somebody has set a goal and my job is to fulfill that goal. Do you agree with this assessment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In that way, leaders are slightly different from managers. Not slightly, in fact, majorly different from leaders. So if I have to distinguish them on the basis of their notion of the goals, leaders have an active, very personal attitude towards the goals. Because those goals arise out of their deeply held desires. As opposed to that, managers, they take those goals as given and they have to achieve it. We'll come to this point which many of you are making, that we have to be a leader and we have to be a manager both and all that. We'll come to that point. But in its ideal state, a leader is someone who has a desire. And not just a desire, but a burning desire. And this is reflected in the statements and how those statements are articulated. Just for example, we had a leader in the national struggle, freedom struggle, called Subhash Chandra Bose. One of his, motto was, which he articulated in a very powerful statement, कि तुम मुझे खून दो मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा. So it is like that. Now azadi was precious for him. And it is besides the point whether the person is able to finally achieve his goals or not. But the goals are very sacred for the leader. And they have a very deep and personal attitude towards the goals. Now, the second thing which you were pointing out, and I think that's also a very important point, that what is their attitude towards people with whom they work? And somebody said they take people along and all that. How do they do it? Do they do it by creating some system of reward and punishment? Who follows a leader?
So in the start, nobody does. Just like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, he was opposed. He said it himself. But slowly and slowly, leader has to convince the people. That is the negotiation skills of the leader.
Sir, I agree with what Pratiksha said. A leader should know the art of taking people into the confidence. If he or she is doing something for the home or something for the people, then he should know that how to convince them and take them in the confidence, because ultimately those are the people who will get largely affected. A leader might have a dream, a leader might have a larger goal which he is trying to fulfill, but the final output or the final result of that dream will benefit the other people more than the leader himself. So he should know the art to communicate with them.
In the process, do we placate the people as leaders? Cajole them, थोड़ी में हाथ डाल के अरे खुशामद कर ली, सब कर लीजिए मेरे साथ काम. is it the kind of attitude that the leaders have towards the people who work with them?
No, sir.
Then what is their attitude?
So their attitude is quite flexible, in my opinion. They will convince the people, but at the same time, they will also maintain a sense of respect that people tend to respect them. They will not cross. They will never cross the line. They will never cross the line, which ultimately leads them to lose their respect. If they are convincing, also they will convince in such a way that the people are basically trying to listen to them, rather than getting an idea that this man is basically trying to work under the people themselves.
Okay, Palaksh, that's a good observation.
Sir, I think the leader set an example. For example, during the Dandi March, Gandhiji, he went on his own and people followed him, seeing his burning desire, seeing his compassion for the country. So leader sets an example. Even if the people are not following, he should come ahead and try to do the job, and seeing that people will follow him one day or the other.
Okay. That's a good example that you have given. There's a couplet which puts it very beautifully. It says that मैं अकेला ही चला था जाने बे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बनता गया.
Yes, sir.
Actually, leaders, Palak said, they have a sense of respect, self-respect, and it is not that they are, somehow trying to win over people to their side. I think that's not the attitude of the leaders. In fact, I read a comparison of the leaders and managers, and the statement which was made was very instructive. It said, leaders inspire, managers motivate. What does it mean? Leaders inspire, managers motivate.
Sir, inspiration would be regarding something, that एक goal set कर दिया दिमाग में कि बस इस तरफ काम करना. But motivation is कि भाई इसके जितने भी काम है अच्छा करो. I guess.
So, inspiration is something that setting an example for other people to follow. But motivation is short-lived when it is externally coming, and for a short while you may motivate something, but if it doesn't come from inside, which the leader does, if it doesn't come from inside, it is short-lived.
So,
leaders are inspires us to dare to dream something. And after we dream and set a certain goal, the manager motivates us to achieve that.
Okay. So, I mean, they have a burning desire, isn't it? They have a generator installed in themselves, and they ensure that heat is passed on to others also. That light and heat, whatever you call it, that is passed on to others also. So Gandhiji did not say to his people that, please come and join my march. He said, I am going for the march. And why I am going? Because I will oppose the salt law, which says that Indians can't make salt. I will make it. I'll break the salt law. And in the process, we will earn freedom. So he linked this idea of breaking the salt law with, a very higher ideal, of, getting independence for the country. So leaders have such pious intent, if I can use that word, that those who buy it, they become part of the cause. It is not team in that sense of the term. फिर तो एक दीवानों का झमघटा होता है जो उनके साथ चल रहा होता है. And that is why when leaders come on the surface, they create a scenario, a scene, maybe a chaos also. Because leaders are disturbed by the existing way of things, or the way in which things exist. And they want to bring some change. Now, when you try to bring the change, is it a very orderly process?
No, sir.
Change creates a lot of chaos. Change creates disturbance in the existing order of things. And naturally, when that happens, the society is divided on two accounts. One who are for the change and those who are for the status quo. What was the status quo that Britishers were aspiring for? Their rule should continue. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Naturally, they will make every effort to ensure that the order is established. Isn't it? So leaders, when they come on the surface, and because they have deeply held desires, they are able to influence people, or influence may be a mild term, inspire people towards that cause. Those who join him become partner in cause. They are not team members in that sense of the term. They are partners in cause. And I hope you will appreciate the difference between being a team member and a partner in cause. And then they buy that idea, yes, this is our idea. And that is why at times when leaders come on the surface, they enjoy a love and hate relationship with others. Those who are partner in the cause, they love him. Those who oppose the cause, they hate him. And that is why that expression that I used, leaders inspire, managers motivate. How managers operate? Managers operate by judicious use of reward and punishment. Pratiksha used a very correct expression. Leaders operate from the inside. Managers operate from the external. Right. Who is a partner in cause? A partner in cause is one who has endorsed your vision. But how a managers operate? They have a very impersonal attitude. भाई ये काम होना है, कौन करेगा? जो करेगा उसको ये इनाम मिलेगा, जो नहीं करेगा उसको पनिशमेंट भी मिल सकता है. So yeah, they have a carrot dangling in front of the person and they have a stick also to beat. And they use those two things very judiciously. That is their beauty of work. कि किसको क्या रिवॉर्ड चाहिए वो रिवॉर्ड देंगे और जो नहीं करेगा उसको लिए कुछ सैंक्शंस होंगी, कुछ पनिशमेंट्स होंगे. So that is why, when we look at the second dimension, I've already told you about the dimension of their attitude towards goals. The second dimension is their relations with people. Leaders' relations with people is very personal. And these are people, I've told you this very instructive story from the life of Sir Syed, how he was able to convince Mohsinul Mulk to be a partner in his cause.
Yes, sir.
Despite they having huge differences on issues. But they became a partner in cause. Because at some stage, Sir Syed was able to, convince him that this is the cause worth pursuing. Leave aside differences. Continue to be there, but we are together in this. So they influence the inside. And I think that was a very beautiful explanation of the idea by Pratiksha, that leaders operate from the inside and managers operate from the outside. And that defines their relations with people. When we were talking about coordination earlier, we talked about the 3 approaches to settle differences. Managers typically operate from the perspective of compromise. Leaders create the third way, an alternate way, which combines best of the both approaches. Let me elaborate this with an example. Again, I've picked, there is an article whose ideas I'm primarily borrowing today. This is a classic HBR article written by a leading thinker in the field of leadership. His name is Zalesnik. And I think in early 70s he wrote this article in HBR. The title of the article was very aptly put, Leaders and Managers. Are they different? This was the title of the article. And in this article, Zalesnik cites an incident from business history. And, American auto industry was a very powerful industry. And in fact, it was the epitome of the industrial revolution that America witnessed. And I told you about Ford. Another company which was equally powerful was General Motors. I trust all of you have heard this name, General Motors. And yes or no? Have you heard this name?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And General Motors had a general manager called Alfred Sloan. And he has written an autobiographical account of his stay in General Motors. It is titled My Years in General Motors. And in that, this incident is described. The situation was like this, that there was a R&D person in the organization. His name was Kettering. And please appreciate the actors, because then only you will be able to appreciate the full import of this story. That the chairman of the company was DuPont. Alfred Sloan was the general manager. And this fellow, third person, is Kettering. He was an R&D man. And because such organizations are engaged in research, and at that point of time, General Motors was working on a research idea. In the early 20s, the cars used to be water-cooled. The engine was water-cooled, which was naturally very cumbersome. But this was the done thing at that point of time. All cars were water-cooled. The engine was cooled through water, a stream of water, which used to circulate. And Kettering was working on a design of an engine which is air-cooled, not water-cooled. And it would have been a very major breakthrough if that came into being and the cars were fitted with this engine, which is air-cooled, which is now the norm in the car. At that point of time, it was not the norm. Now all the engines are air-cooled only, naturally. So Kettering had the full backing of the chairman of the company, the DuPont, and he supported this project of Kettering, and he said, you come up with the idea and we'll do it. We'll replace all our water-cooled engines with, all our cars would have air-cooled engines. And Kettering came with this product. And finally, naturally, like an inventor, true inventor, he was having pride in that, what he has done. And he wanted the company's support to implement that idea. And he shared it with general manager of the company, Alfred Sloan, that the product is ready. It has passed through the test phases and now it is ready to be fitted in the cars. And please advise all the divisional heads who are heading various divisions where these automobiles were being manufactured to implement this. Now, as it happens with all of us, we are all primarily status quoist and we resist every change. There was a resistance from the divisional heads. And they said they were not ready for this idea. And they cited two practical reasons for that. One, they said it is still a new product, a new design, and it is not fully tested, so it may fail in the market, and that would bring bad name for the company. And the second reason they said, again a pragmatic reason, they said, see, we already have a lot of demand of the product in the market, the existing product in the market, and if we change the assembly line in between, it would result in delays, production delays, and we will not be able to cater to the existing demand. So two grounds were used for opposing this idea. One is still an untested product, and second, we have demands to fulfill, and there would be production delays. Now you can imagine what will happen to an inventor when he is faced with such a opposition and resistance. He was very angry, and he said, I will quit the company if my idea is not implemented. I will try it elsewhere. Now you can imagine how Alfred Sloan would tackle this situation. You have the president of the company, the chairman of the company, who agrees with catering or who has a full backing of catering. You have divisional heads who are opposed to this idea. And you have the inventor who is ready to quit if his idea is not implemented. How would you handle this situation if you were at Sloan's place? Is the situation clear?
Pardon me, sir. So can you repeat the last statement? There was some network issue from my side. Not able to hear.
So my simple question is that if you have understood the entire scenario which I have described, if you were at Sloan's place, how would you handle such a situation? You have a conflict between divisional heads and the inventor, the R&D head. You know that president backs the R&D man, but you have divisional heads who are primarily bringing, results to you by catering to the existing demand. How do you handle it?
Sir, trying to convince them of the fact that this might cause a little temporary, थोड़ा सा loss होगा, and we are carrying a great risk, but it is a risk worth taking. If we go through with it and if it becomes a success, just try to think of what it is going to do for the company. जहाँ bad name आने का risk है, वहाँ good name आने का इतना ज़्यादा risk है कि we'll be known as innovators.
Yes.
Sir, instead of going in full-fledged mode, sir, they could have gone in a step-wise mode in various multiple stages. किसी division में cooled engine supply करेंगे और किसी में हम already जो liquid cooled engine है वो चलने देंगे.
Yasir, you want to say something? So two options have been proposed. One, what Adil says, convince people, try to bring them onto your side, tell them this is the future. So our company would be classed as, innovator. And Danish suggests that we should go slow. Don't go full-fledged. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Any other option?
Sir, we can organize extensive communications between the inventor and the divisional heads so that the inventor can show them the new technology and say it how advantageous it is. And then all the divisional heads can be taken together for the decision making process to implement this decision, as Danish said, in some particular cars and see how it turns out in the market so that we can convince everyone.
So your thought process is more like, a combination of what Adil has said and what Danish was saying, that, use persuasion. And in the process of persuasion, bring the actual person on board, the inventor who has developed that idea, and let him convince others. And actually the problem was sorted out by Alfred Sloan in this manner only. First, tried to convince catering, because his first concern was catering should not leave. Because if he leaves, it will, he will get a reprimand from the chairman of the company. But how did you allow a vital person like catering to lose to quit the organization? Because then he may become a threat to the company also, if he joins the rival company. So his first concern was that catering should not leave. Second, deep down he basically agreed with divisional heads, although he apparently kept showing that he has full backing. He is backing catering sideways. But he primarily core to his heart, he agreed with divisional heads. Let the situation that we fulfill our market demands and not change the things. But he did not say it openly. And he presented his problem so in order to convince catering, he presented the problem to catering as a people problem, not as a product problem. He said, your product is fine, wonderful, future technology. But is it a good idea to push down a technology on somebody else's throat once they are not agreed? Because they will find out some other ways to scuttle the entire project. So it is not a good idea. So it is not a product problem, it's a people problem. And that way he was able to convince him, yes, don't take it too personally that your product is being, your technology, new technology is being opposed. No, it is not like that. They are not actually at your level who can appreciate such technology. So he somehow placated catering. And now what is the way out? The way out that was proposed was like this. And he said, why don't we create a new division? Let us say a copper cool division. And you produce the product on your own. You create your own team. You choose your design engineer. You choose your marketing people. And we'll create a new division for you. You had it. And deep down he knew that if you saddle an inventor with a managerial responsibility, he'll not be able to do that good a job. But you will be able to retain him in the organization. And in his book, with tongue in cheek, he writes, I don't know what happened, but somehow the copper-cooled engine didn't come up the way it was expected. It just died down. What we have discussed earlier, the approach of managers in such situations when there are differences. Their basic approach is of compromise. Win some, lose some. कैटरिंग भी खुश है कि भाई ठीक है, मेरे लिए अलग से डिवीजन बनवा दिया. डिविजनल हेड्स भी खुश हैं, प्रेसिडेंट को भी बता दिया कि भाई वो मेरी बात हो गई है, कोई खतरा नहीं है, फिर कैटरिंग इज गोइंग टू स्टे. This is how, this is a very typical example of how managers operate. For them, life is a series of compromises that you make to push your goals forward. Nobody is a clear winner. We win some, we lose some, and the life goes on. But leaders don't operate with that mindset. Their mindset is either you are with me or you are against me. Because again, coming back to the same point which I have discussed earlier, their desires emerge out of deeply held notions about things. Their desires are intense. So they may tend to look others who don't agree with them as adversary. And that is why when leaders come on the scene, they arouse emotions. And we all know that large organizations don't work like that. But we also know that that is the reason why large organizations become bureaucratic over the years. What is the solution? Do we need leaders or we need managers?
Managers who can act as leaders, who understand and appreciate innovation.
What would you call a person like, let us say, Subhash Chandra Bose?
Leader.
Primarily a leader. It is very rare to find a combination what you describe. Some of you are saying that we have to have a manager who acts like a leader. लेकिन एक देखिए माइंडसेट्स होते हैं और माइंडसेट्स को की रीटूलिंग बहुत आसान नहीं होती. जैसे I was interacting with a bureaucrat friend of mine and he was reflecting on how he is trained to be a bureaucrat. इससे देखिए हमें जो वॉच वर्ड दिया जाता है वो ये है कि आपका काम है व्यवस्था बनाए रखिए. आप व्यवस्था कैसे बनाए रखेंगे?
Sir, I have a question to answer. Oh, sorry, question to ask.
Yes.
So you said a leader should have a burning desire. So, but what happens? The burning desire, the motive behind is personal goals and not the society oriented. For example, a businessman. But do we consider such person as leader or not?
Those burning desires are for beyond their nose.
Okay, sir.
It is not for their personal agenda. So, when Sir Syed deeply contemplated about this reality which he was faced with after revolt of 1857, what was his desire? Was it for himself? His desire was for the society.
Yes,
so
sir.
this is a foregone thing that a leader has a noble vision, and noble vision is for the society, for the context around him. I've shared with you that couplet, दो जगह रहते हैं हम, एक तो वो शहर मलाल. So he has regrets for the things the way they are. और दूसरा वो है जो ख्वाबों में सजाए हुए. So their burning desires arise out of the pious dissatisfaction they have with the existing state of affairs. And these are not desires that I have to amass a lot of wealth for myself and my family. So Sayyid died a pauper, but he left a rich legacy behind. So that's a foregone conclusion. Or when Subhash Chandra Bose said that तुम मुझे खून दो मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा, he was ready to sacrifice himself also for the cause.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So these desires are not personal. Personal in the sense that they are अपनी जात को फायदा पहुंचाने के लिए नहीं होता है. So I was talking about this example of which I described, catering's example. For managers, work is series of compromises that you make, and you keep pushing your agenda bit by bit, because your goal is, you have accepted the goal of the organization, that is to make profits, and anything that you have to do in the process. और उसमें ये भी है कि भाई जो टीम है उसको भी इंटैक्ट रखना है, क्योंकि फिर सवाल होगा कि भाई आपके लोग क्यों छोड़ के जा रहे हैं. तो यू हैव मल्टीपल ऑब्जेक्टिव्स टू फुलफिल एंड यू कीप कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग ऑल थिंग्स. ग्रेजुअली कीप पुशिंग योर एजेंडा फॉरवर्ड. वही जो मैंने ब्यूरोक्रेट्स का जुमला कहा, जो व्यवस्था बनाए रखी. Then I will come to that question, how leaders emerge on the scene. एक और चीज मैंने लीडर्स के बारे में पढ़ी, इसी आर्टिकल में उसका मेंशन भी है, और उन्होंने उसको ये कहा कि मैनेजर्स आर वंस बॉर्न, लीडर्स आर ट्वाइस बॉर्न. What could be the implication of this statement? Managers are once born and leaders are twice born.
So once the leader shows a dream or a vision, the masses accept it and think that the mission is is their mission also. That is why they are twice born.
So not everyone has this burning quality of doing something for a greater cause. Not in every century we have leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose or Gandhi. That is why this is sentence.
Sir, in the sense of the work of a manager once assigned a work sticks to that. So that's why it is only one time born, I guess, in that sense. And so for a leader, the burning desire is the first birth, basically. And then after and then convincing the people on the roadmap to fulfill that desire. And then even after fulfilling that, keeping motivating them to, hold the position and keeping on going on that path. That is, I guess, the reference of the second birth.
दूसरी बार जन्म आदमी कब लेता है?
So when they realize their sense of purpose, and I think that's what is the difference between managers and leaders. That leaders realize their sense of purpose, maybe through a struggle or a sense of order that they have, and unlike once born, they don't take things for granted. They work for the things that they want and the changes that they want to see in an organization.
Actually, you are right, Mehak. That was the idea, that there is some turning point. Some turning point in the life of a leader. When you are faced with the harsh reality. वो इंसिडेंट एक छोटा सा इंसिडेंट कोई हो सकता है, या कोई बड़ा ऐसा इंसिडेंट हो सकता है कि जैसे सर सैयद ने वो तबाही देखी अपनी आंखों से, और उसका कल्मिनेशन पॉइंट ये था कि ही लॉस्ट हिज मदर. तो एक बड़ा ग्रांड इवेंट हो सकता है जो आपको मजबूर करता है कि आप अपने बारे में सोचें कि आप क्यों आए इस दुनिया में, कैन यू डू समथिंग. वो एक छोटा सा इंसिडेंट हो सकता है, जैसे गांधी जी के साथ हुआ साउथ अफ्रीका में. You all know about that incident when he was thrown out of the railway compartment despite holding a valid ticket, because that compartment was reserved for people with white skin. तो देखिए डिस्क्रिमिनेशन क्या होता है, आप उस पे एक लंबी ट्रीटाइज पढ़ लें और पूरा एक मैनुअल पढ़ लें कि व्हाट इज डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, लेकिन जब अपने पे गुजरती है तब पता चलता है कि डिस्क्रिमिनेशन क्या होता है. तो ये जो डोमिनेशन का माइंडसेट है, उस दिन शायद गांधी जी को एहसास हुआ था कि क्या है. You could be thrown out of the compartment just because of the color of your skin. तो अपार्थीड वाला वो साउथ अफ्रीका में यहाँ दूर बैठ के पढ़ते थे कि ये सब अपार्थीड पॉलिसी ऑफ अपार्थीड है, लेकिन वाकई अपार्थीड क्या है उसको महसूस करना एक अलग चीज, इंटेलेक्चुअली उसको समझ लेना एक दूसरी चीज.
Yes, sir, definitely.
So in that sense, leaders are twice born. When they experience the reality at a very deep personal level, वो जो burning desires की मैं बात कर रहा था, वो वहीं से इमर्ज होती. बहुत से रेस्पॉन्सेज हो सकते हैं. सर सैयद के जहन में आया था कि ये मुल्क रहने लायक नहीं है, छोड़ के चला जाए. आदमी के there is a constant mulling going on in your inside. What should I do? तो दूसरी बार जन्म तब लेता है जब आदमी अपने मकसद पा लेता है. So in that sense, leaders are twice born. तो वो जो जिसको एक और आर्टिकल में उन्होंने लफ्ज इस्तेमाल किया, एक्सप्रेशन इस्तेमाल किया, मोमेंट्स ऑफ ट्रूथ. लीडर्स फेस दोज मोमेंट्स ऑफ ट्रूथ हेड ऑन एट सम स्टेज ऑफ देयर लाइफ, और उस वक्त उनकी रीबर्थ होती है. So I have discussed these ideas with you, the conception of self. मैं क्यों आया हूँ इस दुनिया में? I've told you about their attitude towards goals, and I've told you about their attitude towards people. At this juncture, I think I still need to discuss with you one question. In fact, two questions. One, society needs leaders and leaders or managers. And then the obvious response would be, I hope the obvious response would be that we need both in a society. But then how do we develop leaders then? Developing managers is easy. You can run a course like this, MBA. You can train people to be managers. But can we train leaders in this manner? So I'll come to this question at a later stage, the last leg of this session, as to how can we develop leaders in a society. Zareen ma'am, are we ready with the PPT? So we
Yes,
can
sir. Yes.
run it at this juncture.
Yes, sir. So may I share?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Sir, is it visible?
Yes, very much. Please. It is a kind of summary of whatever we have discussed up till now. So, next slide, please. Zareen ma'am, the slide is not moving. Yes. So, I think we have been emphasizing on this point that managers primarily strive for stability. व्यवस्था बनाए रखिए. I use that expression, status quo, and create order in the disorder. That's the job of the manager. But leaders, when they come on the scene, they create chaos and apparent disorder in the way things are done. And that becomes a force for change. Managers are primarily striving for maintaining the balance of operations. I gave you the example of catering. कुछ लोगों को कुछ अकाउंट को खुश करना है, कुछ नाराज होंगे, ठीक है, उनको भी साथ लेके चलना है. I mean, you just create that balance of operation. But leaders create new approaches, new ideas actually. और एक और चीज लीडर्स में, ये जो इमेजिन न्यू एरियाज, एक लीडर्स के अंदर बड़ी खूबी होती है कि वो सिंबल्स को बहुत इफेक्टिवली यूज करते हैं. देखिए, आप अगर वही सॉल्ट लॉ की एग्जांपल को थोड़ा और डीपली गौर करें, नमक की क्या अहमियत है एक कॉमन मैन की लाइफ में. Can we think of a common man's life without salt?
No, sir.
हर एक को चाहिए, थोड़ी क्वांटिटी में चाहिए। आप एक ऐसी कमोडिटी को जो हर शख्स के एक्सपीरियंस का हिस्सा है, एक इतने बड़े आइडियल से जोड़ दें कि आजादी मिल जाए। लीडर्स आर मास्टर ऑफ क्रिएटिंग सच इमेजेस, and that is the beauty of leaders. So all leaders have used those symbols very effectively. There is some stage of it. फिर एक बात ये है कि सब स्टेटस और स्टेचर का क्या फर्क है। मैंने पोजिशनल पावर और पर्सनल पावर की बात की थी when we are talking about different bases of power. मैनेजर्स को अथॉरिटी कहाँ से मिलती है? उनकी कुर्सी से मिलती है। लीडर्स को वो अथॉरिटी कुर्सी से नहीं मिलती। गांधी जी नेवर हेल्ड ए पोजीशन, but he was the leader. Okay. So this difference also we have to keep in mind. Whatever their power, it is personal power. The charisma जिसको हम कहते हैं, whatever you call it, but it is deeply inside that adds luster to their personality. इसीलिए जब ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, बहुत से ब्यूरोक्रेट्स रिटायर होते हैं तो उनकी जिंदगी में खला हो जाता है, क्योंकि उनको सारी पावर जो है वो उनकी कुर्सी से मिली होती है। जिस दिन वो कुर्सी से उतर गए वो सब लस्टर खत्म हो जाता है। And focus on efficiency. We have earlier discussed this twin idea of efficiency and effectiveness. I hope you remember that. Managers focus on efficiency, doing things right. Because what is right has already been said by someone. So they take it as given. Now their job is to do things right. Okay? And as opposed to that, leaders focus on effectiveness and they do the right. And I've told you about this conception as we have had a detailed discussion on this, that managers take goals as given. They have an impersonal attitude towards the goals. पैसिव तो नहीं लफ्ज सही होगा, लेकिन इम्पर्सनल आई थिंक इज बेटर कि भाई ये काम का होना है, हम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का हिस्सा है, हमने इसको ज्वाइन किया है, हमें तनख्वाह मिलती है तो हमें ये क्लास लेना है, दैट्स। लेकिन when a leader would engage a class, he would say there is a purpose. I have to influence people. It is not a job to be done. So leaders adopt a very personal and active attitude towards the goal. And they have, as I said earlier, deeply held notions about what is desirable, what is necessary, and what is possible. तभी उन्हें हो सकता है पूरा वो ना ख्वाब पूरे ना होंगे, लेकिन ख्वाब अपनी जगह। पता नहीं क्या हुआ सुभाष चंद्र बोस साहब कि वो, क्योंकि उनकी जो डेथ है वो एक मिस्ट्री है आज, तो हो सकता है वो गुजर गए हों, उन्होंने जो ख्वाब देखा था उसे कभी ना देखा। नेक्स्ट प्लीज। एक और ये रिस्क, देयर एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स द रिस्क। मैनेजर्स जो हैं दे टेक रिस्क बट दे आर वेरी कैलकुलेटेड। ओवरऑल देयर फोकस इज कि जितना रिस्क कम लिया जाए और काम हो जाए उसके बगैर ज्यादा अच्छा। बट लीडर्स प्राइमरीली वर्क फ्रॉम ए रिस्क पोजीशन। कुछ भी हो सकता है भाई, आप ब्रिटिशर्स को अपोज करेंगे तो वो आपके लिए लव लेटर थोड़ी इशू करेंगे। तो बट दे रिलिश इट, ठीक है जी, जान का जिया हो सकता है, नो इश्यूज। So they work from a high risk position. And managers, as I said, they are part of the team, they have a team. लेकिन लीडर्स जो है, अगर आप इसको थोड़ा डीपली सोचें तो कहीं ना कहीं बहुत अकेला होता है। क्योंकि जिस तरह की चीजें वो सोच रहा होता है, शायद क्योंकि दे आर एबल टू थिंक बियॉन्ड, दे आर एबल टू थिंक अहेड, तो हो सकता है वो ख्वाब और लोगों ने उसको उस तरह से न देखा। These are his own personal desires at one level, and that is why they may appear lonely. And for managers, work is an enabling process. तो दे वर्क, देखो आप कैटरिंग के मिसाल, वो जो एल्फ्रेड स्टोन की मिसाल मैंने आपके सामने रखी, उसको ध्यान में रख के इसको पढ़िएगा। दे come up with solutions which are acceptable as compromise, and they act to limit the choices कि भाई देखिए कैटरिंग को लूज नहीं करना है, उसको ऑर्गेनाइज कैसे भी कोशिश कीजिए उसको ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का हिस्सा बने रहना। But leaders, they often develop fresh approaches to long-standing problems. तो कहीं ना कहीं लीडर का काम जो है वो फिर एक क्रिएटिव आर्टिस्ट का काम हो जाता है। किसी भी क्रिएशन को आप ले लें, ऐसे मैंने उस दिन आपके सामने मिसाल दी थी ये सर्जन की, तो उन्होंने कहा कि मैंने सर्जरी क्या है लता मंगेशकर से सीखा। तो जो भी आर्टिस्ट होते हैं जिन्होंने अपने आप को एक आर्ट में के लिए वक्फ कर दिया है, leaders are like those artists. And I've already shared with you this idea that leaders rely on motivation, judicious use of reward and punishment, controlling others through judicious use of reward and punishment. But leaders, they kindle a desire in the other person. Managers would ask how and when. Leaders would ask what and why. क्यों करें? Why we should get freedom? Why Azadi is so precious? Next slide, please. अब इस पे थोड़ा सा आप हो सकता है यू में think why this point last longer and shorter time span. Leaders generally have a shorter time span. शॉर्टर टाइम स्पेन देखिए दो वजह से आप सोच सकते हैं इसको। एक तो ये कि लीडर जब सीन पे आते हैं और उससे कियोस और डिसऑर्डर क्रिएट होता है, तो अक्सर ये भी हो सकता है कि उनके ख्वाब जो हैं बहुत लंबे टाइम स्पेन की ज़रूरत उनको हो उन सारे ख्वाबों को रियलाइज करने के लिए जो उनकी लाइफ टाइम में पॉसिबल ना हो। तो इन दैट रिलेटिव सेंस दे हैव अ शॉर्टर टाइम स्पेन बिकॉज जनरली दे हैव एस्पिरेशंस which go beyond their lifetime. जैसे मैंने सर सैयद की मिसाल दी थी कि सर सैयद का ख्वाब था कि एक यूनिवर्सिटी होनी चाहिए, लेकिन वो ख्वाब उनकी जिंदगी में पूरा नहीं हुआ। तो उस रिलेशन में उनकी लाइफ बहुत शॉर्ट। और दूसरी एक और बात होती है जो आप शायद सुभाष चंद्र बोस के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में समझ सकें कि आमतौर से ऐसे लीडर्स जो हैं वो उनकी फिजिकल लाइफ भी कम हो जाती क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं ऑपोजिशन जो है कभी उनको ओवर पावर कर लेता है।
करेक्ट सर।
तो स्टेटस को जो है जो मेंटेन करने वाले होते हैं आमतौर से वो लोग ज्यादा होते हैं, ज्यादा हावी होते हैं सिस्टम पे, और वो उनको ओवर पावर भी कर लेते हैं। बट द आइडिया सर्वाइव्स, एक और बात ये भी है कि दे ड्राइव देयर आइडेंटिटी फ्रॉम द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ विच दे वर अ पार्ट। जैसे मैंने ब्यूरोक्रेट्स की मिसाल दी कि वो जब तक गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का हिस्सा है उनको लगता है कि वो पावरफुल है, लेकिन क्योंकि लीडर्स के कंसर्न बियॉन्ड द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होते हैं, दे मे बी पार्ट ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बट दे डू नॉट बिलोंग टू इट। मैं यहाँ एक मिसाल आपको दूंगा JRD टाटा। जब उनकी 100 इयर्स की बर्थ एनिवर्सरी सेलिब्रेट की गई थी, he died at a ripe age of 90 plus. So when his 100th birth anniversary was celebrated, there was a bureaucrat, Naveen Chawla, who has dealt with him as industries secretary on many occasions. तो उन्होंने एक ऑबिचुअरी नोट लिखा था, अखबार में, हिंदू में छपा था वो मैंने पढ़ा था। तो उन्होंने एक बात उसमें JRD के बारे में लिखी कि JRD was a person who, when he came on negotiation table as business leader, industry leader, he never argued for his Tata company, which he was representing. He always argued for the industry. Whatever favors, concessions he wanted, it was always for the industry, never for his company. तो वो जो मैंने आपसे एक बात अर्ज की थी कि they think beyond their nose because their concerns are higher concerns. I have told you about this once born and twice born. So मैनेजर की कॉपी हो सकती है, he is a good copycat, but leader is an original. उसका कोई बदल नहीं होता क्योंकि वो अपने आप ही कट आउट एज ए डिफरेंट पर्सन। He is not an individual, he is a personality, and personalities have their own uniqueness. All personalities have their own uniqueness. तो मैनेजर्स जो हैं they keep looking at the bottom line, but leaders look beyond in the horizon. अब उसी सवाल पे आते हैं लास्ट कि ये तो तय है कि भाई सोसाइटी में स्टेबिलिटी भी चाहिए और चेंज भी चाहिए, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं ऐसा हुआ है कि जो स्टेबिलिटी है उस पे एक प्रीमियम लगा दिया गया एंड एवरी चेंज इज रेजिस्टेड by it. How do we create leaders who question the existing things? क्योंकि सोसाइटी में चेंज तभी आता है ना, जो मैंने आपसे एक कोट शेयर किया था शायद कि the reasonable man adapts himself to the world, the unreasonable man insists on changing it. Therefore, all progress depends on unreasonable. तो लीडर्स के अंदर एक वो अनरीजनेबलनेस होती है जिसको स्टीव जॉब्स ने कहा कि स्टे हंग्री, स्टे फुलिश। याद है आपको उनकी स्पीच? हैव यू रेड दैट स्पीच?
Yes, sir. It's Stanford.
Yes, sir. Stanford 2005.
One of the most powerful speech which I've read or heard. इसमें आखिर में he ends on this quote: "Stay hungry, stay foolish." Foolish in that sense कि आपको ये यकीन हो कि आप दुनिया बदल सकते हैं, and always have a hunger for that. Keep yourself hungry. तो मैं कर सकता हूँ, और एक ख्वाब पूरा हो जाए तो दूसरा ख्वाब खड़ा हो जाए. So that hunger should be. How do we develop such leaders? Can we develop such leaders in a classroom kind of situation?
Sir, I read somewhere Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam said that if you want more leaders in our society, then give a child a role model. And in the same way, sir, if we take the example of Dr. Kalam himself, after this class, sir, I feel that during the start of his career, he was more of a manager. But under the guidance of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, he became a leader. And then he imparted the further leadership to the further generation which came forth. So, sir, the classroom will definitely play a very important role here, because the educational institution are the institution which will only give a child a role model. Because if we take the example of the modern day, now the Bollywood is making some good series like the Rocket Boys or any other series. So these are basically available for everyone. And now people have also started reading about these great personalities who actually brought change to the society. So educational institutions are very important, and revolution can only start with the classroom.
देखिए पलक्ष, मैं आपकी बात से एक एक्सटेंट तक एग्री भी करता हूं, लेकिन उसमें एक चीज ऐड भी करना चाहूंगा. सिर्फ रोल मॉडल दे देना काफी नहीं, मेंटरिंग की भी जरूरत होती है.
यस सर, डेफिनेटली.
आमतौर से एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में रोल मॉडल होते हैं, लेकिन मेंटरिंग के सिस्टम्स नहीं डेवलप होते, जहां आप स्टूडेंट से 1-to-1 लेवल पे इंटरेक्ट करते हैं. लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट रिक्वायर्स मेंटर, क्योंकि लीडर की लाइफ में बहुत से वक्त ऐसे आते हैं जब वो फ्रस्ट्रेशंस का सामना करता है, जब उसके ख्वाब पूरे नहीं हो पाते. उस वक्त यू नीड अ पर्सन हु कैन ऑफर हिज शोल्डर और हर शोल्डर so that you can cry on it. Gandhi ji also needed a Gokhale. तो जिस सोसाइटी में मेंटरिंग के सिस्टम्स डेवलप होते हैं, वहां लीडरशिप डेवलप होती है. और जहां ये इंस्टीट्यूशंस वीक हो जाते हैं, इम्पर्सनल हो जाते हैं, वहां मैनेजर्स तो डेवलप होते हैं, लीडर्स डेवलप.
यस सर.
तो उन सिस्टम्स को कैसे रिवाइव किया जाए, दिस इज अ ह्यूज चैलेंज. रोल मॉडल का रोल होता है, यू आर राइट. और जो विक्रम साराभाई का आपने मिसाल दी, बहुत अच्छी मिसाल थी कि कैसे ही डेवलप. आप देखिए, एक शख्स, कभी कभी हैरत होती है मुझको कि एक शख्स एक लाइफ टाइम में इतना काम कर सकता है.
Definitely, sir. He was an exemplary leader. I mean,
a person can develop 14 institutions of national importance during one lifetime. मैंने तो एक ही इंस्टीट्यूशन को एक्सपीरियंस किया, उनके IIM अहमदाबाद को, from slightly close quarters. आज अहमदाबाद है तो वो विक्रम साराभाई की वजह से. लेकिन उनकी खूबी ये थी कि वो ऐसे लोगों को कहीं से लोकेट कर लेते. जो उस काम को कर सकते, चाहे वो एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम हो, चाहे वो रवि मथाई। Ravi Mathai was an industry man. He was a young person to be appointed directly as professor. When he finished his tenure as director, he was only 52 years old. और आज IIM Ahmedabad है because of Ravi Mathai. It is different from other IIMs also. So this is actually the crux of the matter, that how do you locate people with leadership potential? How do you create a system of trust? Till such time, Vikram Sarabhai was able to locate Ravi Mathai, the right person. He continued to be the officiating director of IIM Ahmedabad. Actually, he had multifarious engagements he was not able to do, but he did not hand it over to somebody in whom he had that faith that he would rear it as per his ideas. कहीं मैं किसी चाइनीज बुक में पढ़ रहा था कि लीडरशिप इज दैट अनसीन स्पेस ऑफ द बोल. आप बोल को एक डिस्क्राइब करें तो ये कह सकते हैं कि सर ये कांच का बना है और ये इसका बना हुआ है, मगर उस चाइनीज बुक में लिखा था कि एक्चुअली इट इज द अनसीन स्पेस दैट इज लीडरशिप, दैट डिसाइड्स द बोल्स कैपेसिटी. When I attended the 50 years Golden Jubilee celebrations of IIM Ahmedabad, उस वक्त मुझे और उसका एहसास हुआ कि उस वक्त भी लोग रवि मथाई की बात करते थे. हाउ ही क्रिएटेड ए सिस्टम ऑफ एम्पावरमेंट ऑफ फैकल्टी मेंबर्स. बहुत कम इंस्टीट्यूशंस को मैंने फैकल्टी मैनेज देखा. विद ड्यू अपॉलॉजीज, मैं अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी के बारे में उतने कॉन्फिडेंस से नहीं कह सकता कि ये फैकल्टी मैनेज्ड है, ऑल्दो वी हैव एन एकेडमिक वाइस. Somehow the bureaucracy dominates. But in IIM Ahmedabad, we had a professor, Professor Mirza Sayyidain, and asked him why you are able to do so many things here. He was a product of AMU. Is it because you have a lot of resources? He said, no. We have freedom to think and act. That is the decisive. I just need to think what I want to do and the entire system will help. This confidence I have. So for leadership development, we need to have this kind of approach. I stop here. We still have 1 or 2 minutes left. So if you have some observations or some questions.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So can one person be a leader and the manager at the same time?
Actually, that is the desired component. That is why we say creativity is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. तो जो perspiration part है वो managers को करना होता है, लेकिन कभी-कभी leader को ये गौर करना होता है कि भाई इंस्पिरेशन हमने दिया और एक टीम बना दी, फिर वो उसकी जो डर्टी पार्ट ऑफ द जॉब है वो करेंगे. लेकिन ऐसा होता नहीं है. वन हैज टू लीड बाय एग्जांपल. तो जो अच्छे लीडर्स हैं, देखिए चाहे वो JRD टाटा की मिसाल ले लें या सर सैयद की मिसाल ले लें, किसी भी पॉलिटिकल एरेना से ले लें, अच्छा लीडर वही जाना जाता है कि जो ख्वाब हैं उसको वो रियलाइज भी करे। कुछ लोगों को मौका नहीं मिलता, जैसे सपोज यू talk about the difference between India and Pakistan. They were partitioned at the same time, they got independence at that same time, but the two countries are different because their founder passed away just within 1 year of passing, 1 year of the partition. Nehru served the nation for 16 years as prime minister. तो कभी कभी वक्त ही मौका नहीं देता कि आप अपने आइडियाज से चीजों को डेवलप कर पाए, और कि कभी मिल जाता है और उसका लोग फायदा अच्छा उठा लेते हैं, तो दैट इज द बेस्ट थिंग. लीडर्स एंड मैनेजर्स, दे कंबाइन इन दैट.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Walaikum.